I've got 4 specific actionable tips for you to improve your fighters in combat. Because when you think tactically, you can get so much out of this class. And the first tip is that you need to be aware of where you are setting the front line. Usually if you are a melee or hybrid fighter, your positioning gives or decreases space on the battlefield. You choose the point where the party is meeting the enemy. If at all possible, stretch the battle away from your backline mages and healers. Don't overextend. Make sure your party mates can still save you, but don't stand right next to the bard or the warlock, because you are going to draw the enemies towards your weaker allies, because you are the damage sponge and probably the main target for a lot of enemies. Next tip, expect your attack to miss. Most fighters get into trouble when they only think about the best case scenario, but always expect your attack to miss. If you're absolutely screwed if your attack misses, then do something else unless this is a last resort situation. Don't always think about the best case scenario, think about the worst case scenario. Because if you run up to a hobgoblin captain and miss the attack, then you are right in front of the captain and surrounded by 5 or 6 goblins. And that's really bad. So always expect your attack to miss and ask yourself, what do I do when my attack misses? Third tip, use the ready action to combat flying or skirmishing creatures. Nothing is worse for a fighter than not being able to damage the enemies. Whether that be you're a melee fighter and the enemy is flying above you, or you're fighting some really quick characters that keep on dodging you and getting behind cover. But many fighters forget about the ready action, particularly the grapple ready action. Because when a creature enters your range, you can grab that creature, reduce its speed to 0, and stop it from getting away. Or you could just flat out do damage to it. Either one. And guess what? If you just call that you're readying the attack action, then grapple and shove are technically a part of that, as they can be used in place of attacks. So you can use what is ever best in that moment. So seriously, fighters, stop forgetting about your ready action. Sometimes it's the best action you can take. And last tip, attack the big enemy first. You don't do crowd control as a fighter. That is the role of a mage. Mages have the tools to take down a lot of enemies really quickly. But you as a fighter have an even better tool. You can go toe to toe with the villain's biggest and best minion. So heck, don't worry about the small fries. You don't have enough attacks to deal with a bunch of small minions anyway. Go and kill the biggest enemy that's there. Now this comes with the caveat to not run into a swarm of smaller enemies, because then your crowd controllers can't drop AoEs to help clear out the small enemies. Sometimes you have to wait or take the ready action. But your main priority should not be the small enemies. They should be the biggest, most dangerous things out there. Because yes, while your mages have magical powers, a light breeze can knock them over. You're a fighter. You have high AC, high hit points, and a martial weapon. And you have the courage to stand up against any enemy that your party might face. So go ahead and go after the biggest enemies that are there.